The Supreme Court just handed corporate America a get out of warning label free card. And I know what you're thinking. Josh, this story, it might be a little boring. This sounds like something that C-SPAN would play at 2:17 in the morning to score ratings just from guys who fell asleep with the remote in their hand. And the fact that this news story isn't the most exciting story is exactly how they win. And that's why I'm asking you up front. We need to push this story harder because the algorithm is going to bury it. So I'm asking you right away, share this, hit like, comment, anything so that we can beat Al Gore's rhythm. I mean, the algorithm. Because the sexiest political stories are the ones that are usually filled with green algae and Donald Trump falling asleep in meetings. But the stories that actually rig your life, those usually come out of a quiet courtroom with little more than a press conference that amounts to corporate America telling us all there's nothing to see here. And then 10 years from now, when a chemical company poisons your water, wrecks your town, and gets a bunch of people sick, and everybody suddenly asks, why can't we hold them accountable? We will hardly remember when the Supreme Court once again chose corporate interests over public health. Just like they did this week when the Supreme Court ruled 7-2 that federal pesticide laws block certain states from suing Monsanto over the warning labels on Roundup. We've already covered a Missouri guy named John Durnell. He had won a verdict after arguing that he had developed non-Hodgkin lymphoma after using Roundup for 2 decades. The jury said that the company should have warned people. The Supreme Court, though, in effect, they said if the EPA approved the label and that label didn't have a cancer warning, a state jury cannot force Monsanto to add a warning through a failure to warn lawsuit. So yes, the Trump administration, by the way, they've backed Bayer, which is Monsanto's parent company, because when Donald Trump and Project 2025 only value the people that can turn a profit, that's who they back. They don't care about your safety. They don't care about accountability for corporate malfeasance. And they certainly don't care about a family standing in a kitchen trying to figure out why dad is sick after just doing his job for 20 years around the same chemical. And we already know this story is not going to get widespread attention because it deals with boring things like preemption and labeling. Some of the most boring words used in America, and they're used reliably as a corporate riot shield. And this is exactly how late-stage capitalism actually operates. Not with a guy in a top hat with a monocle and twirling his mustache and yelling, "I love pollution." It operates by turning the federal regulator into a corporate mafia, where money buys the maximum protection anyone can get. And suddenly the floor becomes the ceiling. Get a friendly label inspector, that label becomes the law, and then that is a blanket, a protection blanket for people like Monsanto. And I'm not saying every single pesticide case is simple. I get it. Science is complicated. Causation in the legal sense is complicated. Juries, they can be right, they can be wrong. Fine. But the purpose of a civil justice system is to let evidence fight in public. Documents, experts, cross-examination, internal emails, that is where truth gets dragged into the light by the ankles. And that is the part that corporate America hates. They don't necessarily hate losing because they usually amount to a parking ticket. They don't fear speeches. They don't fear strongly worded statements from Congress. They fear discovery. They fear depositions. They fear some exhausted lawyer in a cheap hotel conference room putting Exhibit 47 on the table and asking the one question no one in the boardroom wanted answered under oath. These corporate actors fear the truth. So what do they do to run from it? They run to Washington and ask for a rule that says you never get the chance for their truth to see the light of day. You never reach the jury. You never get their emails. You never get the internal debates. You never get the moment where the nice executive has to explain why they chose to ignore their own paid experts. And that is exactly why the mainstream press will never touch stories like this. There isn't an easy villain clip. There is no red-faced senator eating paste on cable news. It's a Supreme Court opinion about pesticide labels. It sounds like homework, but that's part of the scam. The boring machinery here is where our country gets sold out from under our feet. So yeah, we can all still be mad about the reflecting pool because damn it, I'm mad about the reflecting pool. But the President of the United States is out here treating algae like it's marching in on Helm's Deep. But while he's posting about pond water, his administration is doing real harm by helping chemical giants narrow the path for actual humans like you and me to get justice. Justice when our water, our soil, or our air gets poisoned. This isn't a free market. A free market would mean companies compete, consumers choose, and when a company hurts people, it pays the price. What we have instead is corporatism. Private profits, public risk, federal protection, and regular people stuck holding medical bills, while some guy on Fox News wearing a flag pin calls it economic freedom while standing in front of a map of places he'd never drank the tap water from. And this ruling also shows the larger pattern of this court. When powerful institutions want the rules bent, they get flexibility. When ordinary people want justice, they get immovable bureaucracy and insurmountable legal standards. And that's why this story matters. Because right now it's boring. And one by one, they're changing the game one boring headline at a time, rightfully expecting us to not notice. But by the time the damage is visible, the people responsible, they've long retired. They've renamed the company, they've merged with somebody else, they've sponsored your youth soccer team, and hired a crisis PR firm to explain the science remains unsettled. So yeah, I get it. It's not the flashiest story. It's not going to beat when Trump has a meltdown tomorrow. But this is the kind of story that this administration counts on people ignoring. Because if they can make accountability boring enough, they can make impunity permanent.